Okay, this is my giant breed Great Pyrenees here laying on the floor joining me for what I'm about to do today. It's our little miniature dachshund back there. You might notice I cleaned up this floor. Gonna build a shed, chicken coop, shed/chicken coop for this stuff here coming up next, but after this project. So what I'm doing today is replacing my valve cover with a cast aluminum valve cover, because I don't know whatever possessed Jeep or AMC to put a plastic valve cover on, but that is crazy. And what I've had is a pretty slow leak for ever since I bought the Jeep. Wasn't quite sure where it was coming from. Finally determined that it's coming from the valve cover, the gasket. And it's that junk, real thin cork gasket that they put on there. Probably with no RTV. So anyway, I pressure washed the side of the engine already, and used some engine degreaser on it. So I think it's pretty clean, And so I got to remove that air cleaner and so forth and start removing that valve cover. But I'm just going to show you this. This is a cast aluminum, like I said. It came with the grommets. I'm going to put breather tubes there instead of PVC, or not. I might put PVC there. PCV, I meant. The oil filter cap is a little different, but it's just a rubber piece. But anyhow, and the kit came with this cork gasket here, and I don't know, it is thicker than the original. Excuse me while I blow my nose. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. So it is thicker than the original one, but I've always been a real fan of FelPro, and this is FelPro's gasket. Looks like it's about the same thickness. It's just a laminate. It's a laminate gasket. So I don't know. I think if this has the same hole pattern, and it should, I'll probably use the FelPro. This sucker was expensive too, $50 at Napa, and I'm not sure what those are for, but I'll figure it out. So the installation instructions, though, tell you that you want to make sure that all the holes line up on the head with the the new valve cover, and got to tighten the baffles on the inside right there. Make sure those are nice and tight. It's actually a well-made piece, kind of heavy. Got it through Morris 4x4 on sale. It was like, for the whole kit, it was $106. When I say kit, I mean it came with the screw pack here, and these screws are to hold the mounting mechanism right here for the air cleaner, for the OEM air cleaner. Came with a cork gasket, and the instructions. And the instructions say that the 5/16 holes in the cylinder head for the factory plastic covers are not threaded. Check again, and if not tapped, you got to tap those. So I got a 5/16 bottoming tap, 18 thread. And in some applications, you got to drill 2 additional holes at the front and the back of the head, and then tap those with a 1/4 inch 20 thread. And I've got one of those. And then I didn't know this when I ordered it, but I ordered them. It is required to replace the studded rocker arm bridges with non-studded bridges, so you may order these under part number DAP. So I ordered those. I've got those here. There's 2 of them. And then the enclosed gasket is thicker than the regular gasket. Yeah, that's true. Probably twice as thick. And but again, I don't think I'm going to use it. I think I'm going to go with the FelPro. I just feel better about the FelPro. So here's those rocker arm bridges, and I guess it'll be self-evident when I take the thing off how I got to install those. I bought this at Harbor Freight. I didn't own these, but I've seen a lot of people use them, so I thought I'd give them a try. So yeah, here we go. And then here's some new taps. I know I have these tap sizes, pretty sure, but these are, I think the ones I have are not bottoming type. These are bottoming type taps. So here we go. So there were 3 screws on this side. On this side, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 hold down bolts with a, I'll just show you. One of these doohickeys that follows the contour of the valve cover. So one of them was missing entirely, I think. Yeah, one of them was missing. I'm not sure if this one should have one or not, but because there's no real, I don't know, nowhere to bite on it. But so one of these is missing. Also, there's screws right down through the middle. This is probably where those rocker bridges are gonna go. And these were loose. I mean, this one was, I could take it off by hand. This one wasn't a whole lot tighter. And then there was a screw here that I took out. I just didn't want to bore you with, me struggling to get that out. That wasn't too bad. The one in the back was a little hard to get to, but it's kind of cool the way it's designed. I thought somebody had just stuck a bolt in there and it wasn't really doing anything, but it's a special bolt that has a lower portion of it that actually seats down on the valve cover. So I'm glad to know that the front and the back are already drilled. I don't know that they're going to be on this side where it needs to be, but instead of drilling it, I may opt to use those hold downs, these things right here, in place of them, if I can, because I don't want to have to drill and tap that if I don't have to. So anyway, getting ready to lift it off now. Okay, now I know what they're talking about. These right here are the bridges they were talking about that have to come off. And the reason is because the new valve cover will not clear this stud that's sticking up, and it's not designed to have those 2 pulling down on it. So I'll have to get those off. Looks like there's gonna be a little bit of cleaning to do on this mating surface. Take a look at this gasket. Junk. Might have worked better though if those things were tightened down the way they're supposed to be. These studs were supposed to be tightened down to 28 inch-pounds. Even the other bolts were kind of loose. I guess I could have checked that first, but I just know that once these things start leaking, there's no remedy for it, because you can see where the imprint is from the valve cover, that plastic valve cover. So it's just, even if I had tightened down, it's just, trying to put a Band-Aid on a gaping hole. So I'm gonna get this cleaned up, get those bridges swapped out, and then get ready to put it back together, I think. Let me see. Okay, it looks like I have a pre-drilled hole and tapped there. Okay, so here's the replacement rocker arm bridge. It's just like the old one, except it doesn't have the stud. However, on the bottom side of this are these pieces right here, which are absolutely essential. It's got a machined surface here, because this thing actually will rock back and forth, as the rocker arm between the push rod over to the valve itself. This is part of the whole rocking mechanism that's there. And Let me get this cleaned up a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. But these have to just, they popped off. I thought that this was a set key or something. I don't know if you can see that right there in the middle of that, but it's not. You can see that machine surface there. So anyhow, that goes back on this piece like that. It should snap in there. So I'm gonna get those back on, get this one mounted in, and get the other one out of there, and same thing. So on these pieces, that this rocker arm bridge is just gonna sit down on them, and once they're tightened down, it you know, in other words, it doesn't slide in there. It sits down on this machine surface here. So what I'm doing now, having cleaned them, is I'm just gonna add a little bit of oil to that and keep my hand. Just a little bit of oil for lubrication. I know these grooves in there allow oil to get in there, but you know, don't want to start dry. All right, here we go. So I'm gonna have a little bit of trouble here finding the hole for this bolt to go down in. The new bridges are on there, but what I have to do, you see them there. What I have to do is find out what that torque spec is, so I can get those to the right torque. So here we go. And what I'm going to do is consult the original service manual, 2-volume set here that I've been using, and I'll find out what that torque's supposed to be. Okay, so here we have the for the 258 4.2 liter, 4.2. This rocker arm bridge. You can see how that goes. There's that little piece. What do they call that? Number 3. There's some nomenclature in here somewhere. I wonder if they tell you what it is. Let's see. I'm just curious. I don't know what they call that piece. No, that's not it. No, not important. Not important. Let me see. So, what I've got here, I've lost my place now. There it is. So, what they want for, at each bridge, tighten the cap screws alternately one turn at a time to avoid damaging bridge. Tighten to 26 Newton meters or 19 foot-pounds of torque. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so I've got my front holes, or front hole and back hole already. So they don't need to be drilled and tapped. I've got the 3 holes on the passenger side that are smaller than the 5/16. So I'm gonna use the original ones. I'm not gonna drill those out and re-tap them. But then I need 2 holes on this side, on the driver's side of the valve cover. And there's a hole here. I've cleaned it out with a scratch awl, you know, to get any kind of grime that's down in there out of there. And I've got me a tap set up, 5/16 tap. So I'm gonna, it's not really deep, but this is a bottoming tap. So I just need to tap this carefully. Kinda.
Yeah, that's a grab. Sure it stays straight. It's already at bottom.
All right, that was a lot more painless than I thought it would be. So, like I said, there's 3 screws on the passenger side that are, I think, 1/4 20. Could be wrong on that. They're a little bit smaller than the 5/16, so they're probably 1/4 20. Anyway, and then the 2 5/16 bolts that go on this side, and then I already have the bolt for the front and the rear. So if I don't have to run to the grocery store, yeah, I need to get something to eat. If I don't have to run to the hardware store, I'm not going to. Let's see. Looks like the kit came with 2 of these. But that's for the front and back. I'll probably try to reuse the original ones. They're a little bit shorter though, so that concerns me. So I'll probably end up going to the hardware store after all. But hey, you know, to get one, you know, I don't know why they're using Allen head screws, but I guess, I don't know. I guess since that's what came with it, that's what I'll use too. But I'll get the replacement ones, or the 3 that I'll still need. I'll get them in this as well. So, all right. And so now what I'm going to do is get the mating surface cleaned up with a scraper and some towels and so forth, and get ready to put this thing on. Another thing I wanted to mention is there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 7 bolts that hold the exhaust manifold and the intake manifold in place. And the one at the very back, closest to the firewall, had not only gotten loose, it fell out and it was just sitting there. So I'm glad I found it. I went ahead and put it back in, ran it in nice and snug, and double checked all these, make sure they're tight. So hopefully I don't need to replace a gasket or anything, but I did notice when I would start it up, I had a little bit of a exhaust leak, and I thought it might be coming from the little donut down there on the exhaust pipe where it meets the manifold, but I think that's where it was coming from, is the very back. That would stand to reason to me, but anyway. All right, moving on. Okay, I got this mating surface all cleaned up. Got all the old gasket material off of there. It's dry. It's got some staining like this area right here, but it's not, there's no gasket material on it. Had an old, well, he wasn't old, but I mean, my old auto mechanics teacher when I was a junior in high school, Mr. Berkey, used to make us clean gasket, machine surfaces until, as he would say, until you're okay with eating off of it. So I don't know that I would eat off of that surface right there, but I think it's clean. So sure would like to see him. I tried to look him up one time. I couldn't find his phone number, but when I was up visiting in Ohio, but he'd be a neat person to see again. So now what I'm going to do is set this valve cover down, do kind of a dry run, and see where we're at. Okay, so skipped a little bit of the process here, but what I did is I ended up using the cork gasket because the FelPro gasket that I bought was a little too thick right here, or a little too wide, I should say, on those areas because of the way the valve cover is made. And I was a little bit concerned about that and what it might do when it tries to tighten down. So they did give me the thicker cork gasket, so I ended up using it. But what I did first is I used black RTV on the mating surface of the valve cover and put that cork gasket in place, and then sat it on the floor with some weight on it so it would dry, and then that way we wouldn't be wrestling around with it when we're putting it in there. So, but what I had to do, or what Carter did, is he had to lay over the engine to get to the very back one back there, which is, you can't even see it. So I mean, you really just have to feel your way, but he was able to get that in there. So he did a good job on that. The thing about these bolts, there's two 5/16 bolts on this side, and then 3/4 20s there, and one in the front. The thing about these bolts is you want them tight, nice and snug, but not as tight as you can get them, because what'll happen is it'll squash the cork gasket out of there and actually cause it to leak. So I've got them using a 1/4-inch drive ratchet. I've got them tight in the way it feels. And I went ahead and put a washer on there too, so it kind of distributes the load a little bit more, pushing down on it. So we've got that installed. The next part is to get the bracket that goes here so we can mount the original air cleaner back on there. And then I'll have to go get a couple of breather tubes. I've got a PVC that might work on the one. PCV, I should say. Where is it? It's over here somewhere. No, it's not. It's down here. It's hiding from me. Yeah, it's definitely hiding. So, well, we'll get that later. But I'll put a breather tube or something here, and I might hook the PCV up there if it has a nice snug fit. The reason I took it out is because it unplugged the back of the throttle body, is because there was a vacuum leak, and that was obviously problematic. So, all right, we're going to get on to mounting this bracket here. Here we go. They give you 4 in case you drop one, I guess, which is very oftentimes happens. Yeah, you can now. That's better. All right, that should be it.
It's on your dresser.
Okay. That should be it, except for take that off there. I don't want that hanging around. Okay. Well, I believe that's it, with the exception of getting a couple of breather tubes. I might put a PVC there and run it to the back side of there, but it's got to fit snugly, otherwise you lose vacuum. You don't want that. So, all right. That completes the valve cover gasket and valve cover project. Pretty simple.